Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Can anybody see me? Can you hear me? If you can, please do let me know that you can see me. Can anyone see me? Can anyone hear me? Wow, wow, wow. I can't see anybody yet. Can anybody see me? Let me see your comments. Let me see your comments in the comment section. Let me be sure that you can see me. So how is everyone doing? Welcome to today's webinar. If you can see me, do let me know that you can see me. I can see some people joining me now. We had a problem in our setting and I couldn't see anybody. Please, can you see me? Let me see your comments in the comment section. Please, can you see me? Can you hear me also? Let me see your comments in the comment section. If you can see me and you can hear me, let me see it in the comment section, please. I can see some people join. If you can see me, please do let me just move on. We are running out of time. And welcome to today's webinar. Today we are talking about effective discipline of a child. And I want you to know that when we say discipline, discipline means a lot of things to so many people. And that's why we want to take it from the angle of where we want to take it from today. I'm not still seeing comments. I want to be sure that I'm not talking to myself. So, when you hear discipline, what comes to mind? As a parent, when you hear discipline your child, what do you think this discipline is? I want to see your comments also in the comment section. Let me know that you are with me and you're getting what discipline is not. 3 or 4 things I would say discipline is not is discipline is not punishment. Discipline is not shouting, screaming the way we parents scream, yell, and shout. Again, discipline is not also a reward, for a child doing well or not doing well. That's not what discipline means. If discipline is not all of this, then what is discipline? That's the question we should be asking. Now, before we go ahead, let me say to you that 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I won't be saying what I'm saying now when it comes to discipline, but I had to learn. I had to learn in my journey and my process, and made researches that made me realize that why we've been always missing it as parents, even when we were raised, was because we called discipline what discipline is not. we call discipline what discipline is not. So discipline, I will say, is a structure. If discipline is a structure, if a human being needs to be disciplined, outside children, every human being needs to be disciplined, every human being needs to be principled, every human being, has to pay certain level of sacrifice to be able to achieve what he or she wants to achieve, and that can only be done when you are disciplined. You're writing exam, you're disciplined enough to sit and read your books. You're meant to do a particular thing at a particular time, and you're disciplined enough to do it at that particular time. If all of these things sums up to what discipline is, then discipline is structure. So we are talking about how do we structure our children, how do we make them understand that there's time for everything. There should be they are human beings, and they should be programmed in a certain way. Now, if that is what discipline means, then and that helps shape or form who the child will become. That's what discipline is. Discipline is that structure that helps you shape your child, who your child becomes, or shape the life of your child. Sorry, excuse me. Let me get this thing reduced. That helps about your child will become. That's what discipline is. Now, if that's what discipline is, in our children. Even the Holy Book, the Bible, gave us instruction to discipline our children. But the problem is that many of us do not even understand what discipline is, and we misinterpret the whole essence of discipline. Now, let me also say to us, you cannot discipline a child you have not taught. You cannot discipline a child you have not taught. And what I see most of the time, I said 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I won't be saying this because that is what we were handed over to know as discipline. And it made a mess of so many people, and did not actually bring out the essence of what discipline is. Welcome everybody. I can see people joining me. Drop something in the comment section. Let me know that you're here with me. So it made a mess of so many people in the name of discipline. If discipline is structure, I said that discipline is that structure you want to imbibe your child. You want that structure to shape your child, or who your child becomes as he or she is growing, and then makes the child or help the child become that as an adult. Now, if we do not understand what discipline is, and understand that you will be disciplined first to be able to discipline a child, then you're going to make a mess of your journey. Hello, Jane. Thank you for joining me, Jane. Welcome. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Sorry, we had hitches in the first link, and that's why we went off. If you can see me, drop it in the comment section, and then help us put down all of the things that jumps at you while we're having this conversation. So I said it is a structure that helps you structure your child. Now, if that's what discipline is, the first thing to note, put it down in the comment section. The first thing to note is that, all right, thank you. The first thing to note is that you cannot discipline a child you have not taught. That is the first thing. is number one. Put it in the comment section if you can see me. You can. Number two is you cannot discipline a child if you are not disciplined as a parent. Put it down. You cannot discipline a child if you are not disciplined as a parent. That's number two. You have not taught. Awesome. Awesome. And then number two is you cannot discipline a child if you are not disciplined as a parent. If you are not disciplined as a parent. That's number two. That's number two. Points and recall that the holy book, the Bible, said to us, parents, in Proverbs 26, train up a child, train up a child in the way that child will go, not in the way you want. Train up a child. Now, it means that training comes first. But what we see or what we normally do is that we wait for a child to err, then you bring out your cane and start the flogging and start the beating and start shouting and jumping up and down, and that's what we call discipline. That is not what discipline is. I've said it earlier. It's not shouting, it's not punishment, it's not yelling, it's not screaming up and down. Now, training comes first. That's the first thing to note. Training comes first. And does training stop? Training does not stop until the child is able to get or learn the skills you want him or her to learn to be able to carry out whatever thing you want the child to carry out, except the child gets the skill, except the child is equipped with that skill. Training cannot stop. Training doesn't stop. It doesn't. Now, having all of these things, I'm putting this background so that we will understand that there are so many things we have called discipline that discipline is not. And if we continue to make that error, then we're going to have a lot of issues trying to discipline our children. So having all of these things in mind, I want to diversify our teaching today in two forms. Discipline that empowers your child and discipline that disempowers your child. Discipline that disempowers your child. Good. If we have discipline, I said two things for us to get it more clearer in this session is that we are going to take it from two angles. Number one, discipline that empowers your child, that is the one that is effective, and then discipline that disempowers your child. Now, discipline that empowers your child, we're going to take 3 ballots now so that we can understand whether the discipline empowers our children or disempowers our children. Number 1 ballot. Now, as a parent, laughing, smiling is, gravitate. If you can hear me, please put it down in the comment section. When you discipline your child, what does it help the child do? Does the child stay happy? Does the child feel more, empowered? Does the child gravitate towards doing that thing, which you have disciplined the child for? Or the child feel angry or feel withdrawn or feel, not satisfied, so to say? Your answer will definitely come in these 2 ways: empowering your child or disempowering your child. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on. Now, if whatever answer be your answer, if we finish these 3 questions, we've got to understand why it is empowering or disempowering. Discipline is huge. We're not going to finish everything discipline. By October, we're going to have series, series in our YouTube channel here about discipline. But we want to give, hit the head, the nail at the head today by giving us the background perspective when it comes to discipline. Number one thing is, I said in this here, does your discipline help? Okay, Jane said she didn't get the question. I said for us to get it, we will be taking it from the angle of two things. Does your two ways that we want to take today's webinar from: empowering discipline and disempowering discipline. Empowering and disempowering. And then when we put down empowering and disempowering, we are going to answer three questions that will help you know whether what you're doing is discipline or not. Two things, empowering and disempowering discipline. We are taking it from the angle of empowering and disempowering discipline. That's what this session is all about. We want to understand the effectiveness. Is your discipline empowering or disempowering your children? And how do we do this? We will take three questions to know. Number one question: when you discipline your child, whatever measure you're using today, when you discipline your child, does your child feel happy? Does your child feel good after the discipline? And the child wants to learn and is gravitating towards what you did, whatever thing you used to discipline him or her? Or the child feels angry, or feel withdrawn, or feel less motivated? Which one happens to your child when you discipline your child? Which of these two? Put it down in the comment section. Which of these two happens to your child when you discipline your child? Which of these two happens to your child when you discipline your child? Do your child feel angry? Do your child feel happy? Do your child feel withdrawn? Do your child feel motivated, with the way you have disciplined him to even do it better? Put it in the comment section and let's roll. Let's roll. Now you're less motivated, less concerned about what it is that you have done to him or her. That's number two. And finally, when you finish whatever disciplinary measure you're using, do your child feel empowered to communicate with you, or your child feels like disconnecting with you? Does your child feel motivated to communicate? Do your child come to you happily wanting to? Okay, Clementina said, when I spank, my children withdraw, but when I withdraw privileges, they feel motivated to behave better. Oh, wow, wow, wow. When you spank, your children withdraw. Now, the spanking is your discipline, right? That is what it is. The spanking is your discipline, and the child withdraws. And the child withdraws. Awesome. 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 Okay. Now, let's look at it like in the second question also, and in the third. The third says, do your child feel to communicate with you or disconnect with you? Do they come to you to share what it is that they're happy with what you did to them and all of that? Is that how they feel? Now, we are talking about discipline because discipline is the cross of every human being that is striving. excuse me, every human being that understands that life is a pedestal and we're on a journey on that pedestal, we must understand also that this roller coaster called life, if you're not disciplined as a human being, you make a mess of what it is that you're doing in your life or with your life. So when we talk discipline, discipline is huge. Discipline is huge, like huge, but we want to share this from this angle today so that we understand whether we are on a journey to use effective measures, or our measures are not effective. They are disempowering our children. By the time we keep doing series on discipline, you understand even more better. And let me also say this: when you don't understand a purpose of a thing, when you don't understand the purpose of a thing, abuse becomes inevitable. The purpose of discipline is to get your child to learn what it is that you want him or her to learn and do it more better the next time. That's the purpose. Now, if whatever measure you're using is not disciplining your child, or not, rather, sorry, is not helping your child to even do it more better with or without you, then that disciplinary measure is a wrong one. Abuse must be inevitable when the purpose of a thing is not understood. Abuse must be inevitable. It must be. So, looking at discipline from the angle of empowering and disempowering today, we're going to share 3 ways that the author of the book, and Mary Ann Lilly, the author of the book, The Discipline of Your Child, how she put it in 3 ways: supportive discipline, corrective discipline, and preventive discipline. What does that mean? Preventive discipline is that disciplinary measure you have put in place to be able to prevent misbehavior subsequently. Corrective disciplinary measure is that measure that you use, to correct the child. And then supportive is the one you use, those tools you use to support the child to be able to do things better next time. Now, looking at these 3 things, I have now broken it in 2 ways. How do you know that your disciplinary measure is empowering? How do you know that it's also disempowering? Let's look at the things that make children, or translate to what we call misbehavior in children. If you don't have a structure that structures your home, structures your child, then you always have issues with discipline because you're disciplined. Looking at these 2 things, we'll understand that there are things that are not empowering. For instance, if you spank your child and your child withdraws, it shows that the spanking has not actually corrected the misbehavior. The spanking only aggravated something you may not be able to address at that moment because your child wants to behave well in your presence. Have you asked yourself, what happens if I am not there, or if I'm not with this child? What will it become if I am not there to do this spanking? And that's where parenting the heart of a child comes in, because there's something that caused your child to do whatever that child did, said, acted, whatever it is. There's a reason why the child did that, and it is that reason that you want to see from the heart, because you're not seeing your child's heart, literally, you're not seeing the heart. It is the misbehavior that shows what is in the heart of a child. Now, when you don't use the measures that empowers your child to even do better tomorrow, then you're going to disempower your child, and even disempower him from understanding what it is that he needs to do per time. So, because you are looking at it in these two angles of empowering and disempowering, I have written down tools to help us understand whether we are using preventive measures, whether we are using supportive measures, and whether we are using corrective measures. We must also understand that discipline is not anything that works, for everybody. Discipline can never be and will not be the same thing for every child, because every child has different makeup. Every of our children are differently. I give you a vivid example. I have a son who is, I noticed that at age 1, for him to show you that he's angry or bitter, you collected a cup from him or you collected a spoon or something, he grieves at you, he holds you, and like an adult, if an adult wants to fight you, definitely he will hold you or something. Now, such a child is not able to express emotion. Some children will be able to frown their face or cry or show you that they are angry with you or something, and then you now realize that they're angry. But this type who cannot, or who their emotions are, in the high sequence, who cannot control their emotions, who cannot express themselves, when they get you gripped or something, if you don't understand that you should validate, you should notice, you should make that child feel not, all starts from our relationship with our children, then you're going to grow up with that child not understood how to control emotion. And it is from you see fighting, anything you can think of. It starts from emotions. It starts from being able to control a child's emotion. But what we do, or what I see in my work, in my line of work, what I've seen that people do is we shut children down. We don't want them to express emotions. We don't want them to express their emotions. We beat the child. We don't validate the emotion. You don't, you beat the child. You don't validate the emotion. It becomes a mess. So if discipline is a structure, I said is a structure that structures your child, that helps your child become that entity that should be done, that understands how and when and what should be done at the right time. In the dictionary, in the Latin word of this discipline, it means learning, it means teaching. And that's why I said training is where all of these things come. If structure helps you to structure, if structure helps you to structure your child, it means you are training. But because we don't train, we wait for the child in the angle of when the child is, you come to beat, you come to shout, and all of that. So for us to empower our children, I've written down 4 things that will help us know that Latin word called disciplinus. Disciplinus means knowledge, means learning, means teaching, all of these things. If all of these things means teaching, it means that discipline is teaching us, parents, to teach our children. Discipline is structuring us, parents, to teach our children and to have some um, tools ourselves and skills to be able to teach our children. If you're not a patient parent, you won't be able to teach your child. If you're not an emotional intelligent parent who can control your emotions, you cannot be able to discipline a child. It starts from emotion first. You won't be able to discipline your child. Meaning that God Himself is giving us that privilege to be able to learn some virtues. Patience, number 1. Self-control, number 2. To be able to do discipline, to be able to discipline your child, you must have these 2 virtues. It must be in you. It must be in you as a parent for you to be able to do. I can't seem to see anybody dropping comments. Am I still seeing? Am I still heard? So for you to be able to teach, for you to cause this learning in your child, for you to impact this knowledge in your child, then you must have these two virtues. You must have these two skills for you to be able to do all of these things. So 5 things I said that we're going to look at to know if I wrote down 4 things or 5 things that I said um, is to help you understand whether um, your disciplinary measure is effective. 5 tools. I wrote down 5 tools, and I also said, according to the author Mary Ann, who wrote the building class discipline. I said she said it in 3 ways: preventive, supportive, and corrective. And it is in these 3 ways that I've structured mine in empowering and disempowering. So for it to be empowered, we are looking at 5 things. 5 things to help us know that our disciplinary measure is empowering or not empowering. 5 things. 5 things. Number 1, your relationship with your child. And in your relationship with your child, what the number it has, I have put 2 things to also know. Have you built a relationship with your child to the level where you don't use verbal abuse? Because the tools that will help you, become effective is also verbal correction. So for you to use verbal correction, you won't be that parent who uses verbal abuses like, what's wrong with you? Are you all right? Are you an animal? This and that. All those verbal abuses that we normally use, especially we mothers. Especially we mothers. So for you to know that it is effective, your relationship with your child. In your relationship with your child, do you use verbal abuse? That is number 1. Verbal abuse. If you don't, then the tool to use for effective discipline, number 1, is verbal correction. Verbal correction. If you don't have, excuse me, if you don't have a good relationship with your child, you won't be able to use verbal correction. And when I say verbal correction, what do I mean? It starts from validating your relationship with your child. It starts from making emphasis on good behaviors of the past, praising, helping your child, not really praise, but making your child feel, you did well, so time when you did this, when you did that, when you listened well, you were able to do this and do this and do this. So when you validate your relationship with your child, it will help you to be able to use verbal correction well. Because what I see people say is, when you talk, children don't listen. It is because we have programmed them not to listen. They can only listen when we shout or when we bring out our cane or something. That's the only time they can listen. So verbal correction helps you as a tool. It helps you validate your relationship with your child and tackle your concern, whatever thing that is distracting you or making you feel overwhelmed or feel angry or feel bitter. Tackle all of those things and then try to emphasize on the good behaviors of the past. When you do all of these things, then you'll be able to use verbal correction. Verbal correction. Number 2 thing I wrote, not a child that is upset is not a good listener. There's something we say to my son, my son that I talked about. There's something we started singing for him as a child, as a small baby, as a toddler, then like 3 or 4. My baby needs more love. More love, more love, more love, more love. We forged that song and started singing it for him because coaching your child. A child that is upset is not a good listener. A child that is upset is not a good listener. He's not listening to you. What you're saying, you're just wasting your time. So if an angry child or an angry person needs more love, then it means that there's something that should be done for that child to be able to understand or for you to handle the child well. And that is where number two comes in. Emotion coaching your child. In emotion coaching your child, a lot of things need to be done. Like I gave an example, my child will hold you, grip you, and try to get that thing done or revenge or hit you for not doing that thing and all of that. He was 3, 4, 5 at the time. And I got restless because I knew there must be something wrong. And by the time I got into learning and researches about it, I started remembering, God took me to the memory lane of remembering adults who I was privileged as a young girl then, their parents sharing their ordeal, how they break things when they get angry, how they do this, how they do that, and all of that. It is because we weren't validating an emotion of a child. So if you must use emotion coaching your child as a tool for your discipline, two things must be done. Two things must be done. Before you emotion coach your child, be aware of the emotion first. Before my child starts dangling or whining or using, that process of showing you that he's angry, before he uses all of that, my child you will see it from his face that he's already angry. And before you know it, he'll start gripping you. Before you know it, he'll start holding, maybe you are holding a pen like this. He'll start holding the pen, start dragging it with you and all of that. So by the time, before he gets to that place where he starts doing all of that, you look at him and you say things like, why are you angry? What happened? Let me know why you're angry. I have told us that you must be very patient. You must be an emotional intelligent parent for you to be able to handle discipline well. And if your discipline must impact your child, like the discipline that, like the meaning of discipline implies in the Latin word, then or a lot need to be done in you before you'll be able to do all of this and put it together. In our program, Build Your Home Tribe, all of these things, we'll be breaking them down daily, weekly, in webinars that will be running every week, every month. So I know that we cannot finish everything today. We cannot even finish everything in the series we are going to do in September about discipline. But I will encourage any parent that is listening to me now, and every parent that wants to be in a process, because it's not just getting a tip or getting the hacks. Is everything to do, know what to do part-time in your journey and updating your knowledge in whatever you need to do as a process. So in Build Your Home Tribe, all of these things, we'll be breaking them down, and we'll be taking our children one after the other and addressing issues in their peculiarity. That's one of the benefits of people who will join that are the other to share all of the things that we're learning with our children. So let's go ahead. When you want to emotion coach your child, number one thing is you understand the feelings first. For me, I look at my child before he starts whining and dangling. We even call him dangler. Dangler. We'll be making, laughing about it. But before I'll tell him, when he starts dangling, I'll say, what happened? Your face is not looking fine. Why are you frowning? Before the dangling will start, So tune into the child's emotion first. Tune into the child emotion. Some children may not do like my child. They will be angry, they will frown their face, they will withdraw, some will cry. All of these things are signs. So before in the sign, try and make sure that you tune into the child's emotion, pay attention to that emotion, you know, understand that the child needs to be talked to. Listen also. Listen, I put all of these things down. When you watch a facial expression of the child, you will understand that all is not well. And then you validate the child's feelings, not shut up. I know a parent I had a session with last week. She said to me that in fact they don't even allow their children to cry. Once their child starts crying, or any of them, they will flog you very well for crying. They will now tell you, since you want to cry, let me help you to cry well. I know so many people who do it. Even to us adults, we were treated like that. So we tell them that their emotions are not valid, that getting angry is not valid. Even God himself told us to be angry, but we should not allow the sunset to go down. So when you tell a child, why must you be angry, and is that why you're framing your face, you're making the child feel that his emotion is nonsense, he's stupid. Whatever thing that is making that child feel like that is what you are watering down. So we need to validate those them that, oh, I understand how I know you're not supposed to do like this. Don't get angry because of this, because of that, because of this. Okay, let's do something. Let's brainstorm. That's what I do with my child. I'll tell my son, okay, let's brainstorm. What do you think we can do about this? It could be just cleaner that he's making him cry. He will throw himself on the ground. He will fall on the ground, scatter the book and all of that. Before it gets to that scattering point, you know, just ask the child, is it this cleaner? Or maybe the child, you ask, what is it? And this and that. And the child explains, and you now say, okay, because of the cleaner. Okay, don't worry. I'll buy another cleaner tomorrow. There are children. The person picks up again, picks up joyful atmosphere again. Recognize that feeling and encourage that child. Encourage the child. If you don't do that, as it's piling up, that's how misbehavior breeds in children. As it's piling up, the child will, at a point, digress into so many other vices. Every vice that you see in the society started from lack of control of emotion. But is either parents overlooked it, or did not validate it, or ignored it. He's a child, or you flog him, he will stop it, and all of that. So all of these things must be taken into consideration, and you listen to that child. Try to tell the child, like myself, I tell my child the emotion is feeling. When he does all those scatter book, tear book, and feel angry and fall on, I'll say, why are you aggressive? This thing is called aggression. If it's just the anger expression that is in his face, when I look at it, I look at his face and I identify just the expression, I'll tell him this, why are you angry? Why are you angry? Whatever be the emotion, just try to show expression of what the anger with the emotion is, and validate it. Find solutions for all the things that should help the child calm down and all of that. But you can't do any of those things if you don't parent yourself. We'll break it down in the Build Your Home Tribe. Let's go ahead. Number 3 thing that I have seen that all is another powerful tool in making discipline work is setting boundaries. I said earlier on that structure is what parenting is, what discipline is. Discipline is structure, and is that thing that helps to structure the child, program the child such that he will understand what it is that he should do, when, what, and how to do it. If it is sweeping you are teaching your child, we are not patient to teach. That's one of the problems we have as parents. If it is sweeping you're teaching your child to do, you raise the chair, you do this, you say you did it yesterday, you did it the first day, you've been teaching him, he doesn't want to do it, every day you do. You keep teaching until the child learns. I tell my husband, one of the things my daddy used to say, he will be telling us, even when we have grown, university, secondary, my daddy will be saying, I will be patient to keep teaching you. I will keep teaching until I'm no more. That's what patience does. That's what patience helps you achieve. You will keep teaching until the child learns it. There are skills to help you build, set boundaries well. Put down the number three too, as setting boundary or boundary setting, and how you want to do it. Setting boundary or boundary setting. If you are able to structure your home, your children will know what is obtainable, what is not obtainable, and then the boundaries that you have set before time. That is what is called preventive. That's what that woman, the author of building class discipline, what she called preventive discipline is what I also call build boundary setting. By the time you set boundary, your child have known what is obtainable and what is not obtainable. From the day one, your toddler will understand, no, when you insist on not accepting For instance, you don't want your child to be touching your phone and he's just 1 year. And when he picks your phone, you collect the phone back and say, no, phone is not for children. You don't play with phone. It's not a toy. By the time you keep doing it at age 1, age 2, before the child gets age 3, he or she understands that no, mommy doesn't allow us boundaries. Excuse me. We can't set boundaries. If they do this style today, you agree. Tomorrow, you refuse. They want to understand what boundary means. That's another powerful tool. We'll be breaking down boundary setting down and the tools to use to set boundary in the Build Your Home Tribe. It's going to be an amazing, amazing program that will set you up in a process. It's going to be a process, a journey that will break you down, parent yourself, teach you how to parent yourself with the webinars we're going to do monthly and all the teachings that we're going to follow each month. And when you have learned about yourself, parenting yourself, because 90% of us have not even understood that we will need to parent ourselves to be able to over is most of us are failing in our disciplinary measures because and those limitations are on the children. So let's move on. Number 4 thing is what I call programming. Programming. Programming, I also use it a lot with my children. Programming is, trying to make a child understand or learn something without necessarily putting yourself in the picture or in the shoe. You keep quiet, you look at the child. If I sit still like this and I'm looking at my children or any of my child, while he's doing something, the child desists immediately. He's desisting from that thing because I have over and again made that thing a deliberate action for you to know that this is not accepted. So you mustn't talk, you mustn't shout, or why must you do this, this and that, this and that. Just program the child. These things are small things that whether you're there or not, this parent is not supposed to be here, and I'll keep you quiet and be looking at you. I did it today. While she returned from her music class, as she was dropping her bag, the first place she dropped the bag was on the dining table, her lunch bag. I sat down in the same dining. I was eating my lunch. I sat down in the same dining. I was looking at her. She just said, "Oh," and carried her bag. I didn't utter a word. So by the time you establish something and insist that this is the way it should be, you don't necessarily need to be talking and preaching every time and they will now get fed up. Like my son that has emotion problem that I just used as an example. He gets fed up with so much talk. Children naturally get fed up with so much talk. So be careful to understand what works for a particular child, and how that child learns also will help the child to help you to know what exactly works. So programming works for every child. You may not necessarily talk, but you have established that this is the way this thing should be. Watch the child. As he's doing it, you insist and be looking, or you're silent, anyhow you want to do it, but make sure you're programming the child to understand, no, this cannot be kept here. This pen should be here. This pen must be here. Establish it and insist on it. As time goes on, it builds and sets in the child's head. Their brain is tabula rasa in some researches, and all of these things sticks. Insist that this is the way it should be, and then watch the child. These things have steps to be able to do all of these things. We'll be breaking all those things down in our webinars in the Build Your Home Tribe. So I'm already telling you how Build Your Home Tribe webinar is going to be. Make sure you're in that program. And the last thing I'm using today is teachable moments. Teachable moments. That's another powerful tool to use for discipline. If you know that your discipline will teach your child to do better tomorrow, these things I'm listing for you is they are small, small things, but they are powerful. Teachable moments are that time, that period when you need to share with your child, these things are not done like this is done like that, this, that. If you don't explain or teach what the child should do next time, he will not understand. What I see that most of us do is, don't do this, don't do that, why did you keep it there, why did you do this? In all your why, and don't, have you told the child, do this, do it like this, do it like that? It is the doing of this way or that way that will help the child to understand what the child needs to do. If the child does not know what to do, you are just assuming that he should know. But the misbehaviors have showed you that he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. And so if you don't use teachable moments to teach, the child will not understand. Teachable moments could be as small as a child dropped a plate in where the plate is not supposed to be, for instance. It's an avenue for you to use to tell the child, plates are kept in the kitchen. Plates are kept in the kitchen plates rack. It's not supposed to be here. Keep it there. You emphasize on it tomorrow, and he does it next tomorrow. Over time, he will understand that plates are kept in a particular place. Teachable moments could be as small as you're watching something or reading a book, and something came across, and you ask you already see what is in the heart of the child. I am big on parenting the heart of the child. The reverse is the case. The reverse is the case, because the child does not really know what to do, and then your disciplinary measure is punitive or is not empowering, like I shared earlier. And so he wants to please you and do what is right before you, but behind you the person does a different thing. Is that what you want in your child? This is why our country, even our country, is the way it is. Everywhere you find errors, in leadership, which actually starts from home. It is because at some point, the person wants to do it to please whoever he's subordinate to. Not that the child have learned it as a value system. Not that you as an adult who is doing this have built it as your value that you should do this right, whether or anybody is looking at you or not. And so our children pick all of these things and begin to do them because they want to please us. So use your teachable moments to validate or empower your child. No, this thing should not be done this way. No, this should, and teachable moment is not for you to come and be preaching and judging the child and telling the child you're very stubborn. I don't know why you are like this and that. This is a part I have also told. And God took me a memory lane of remembering when I was young, handling children in the junior presidium in church, and all the cases I had, and parents are sharing with me, all of the children that were rebellious, resentful, and all of that. It was because of the measures that the parents were using as discipline. And so when my own child started, dangling and whining whenever he wants to, I started saying to myself, there must be a way out. God, there must be a way out. And by the time I told into learnings and researches, that's why I started this webinar by saying 9 years ago, I won't be saying this because I hadn't a challenge that will make me realize, oh, this is not discipline. Because what we confuse ourselves with, punishments and consequences and everything that we use, they are all not discipline. But if you structure your home, you will be able to understand preventive discipline, like the author of building class discipline, shared in her book. You'll be able to understand preventive. You'll be able to understand corrective. You'll be able to understand, she shared it in 3: preventive, corrective, and supportive. You'll be able to understand what supports your child. How do you prevent that mistake not to be done? How do you correct? So all of these things are the tools that are so powerful, very little, but very powerful. and they will help your child to understand what should be done. That is impacting value. And you cannot influence a child you are not impacting on. A child can only trust you when you are impacting in him or her. But if you're not actually, your measures are not impacting in a child, then the child, you can never influence that child. He will just do for the sake of doing and please you before you. And when he goes out, by the time the child gets to 13, 14, 15, you start struggling and fighting again, because the child will now tell you to the face, even if he couldn't tell you at 6 and 5 and 7. Not like my children that are strong-willed. At 4, they tell you to your face, mommy, this is this, mommy, this is that. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? So if you don't want all of those forceful obedience, is force that we use to get our children to obey us and all of that. If you don't want all of those forceful obedience and fight and rebellion that will come in the future, please, let's start stalling in the place of value. How do I impact my children? How do I impact them to influence them? And then they see me, they are motivated to do the right thing. Not just trying to teach them and all of that. We have to discipline ourselves first. We have to parent ourselves first and be able to do all of these things with ease. With ease. So, having said all of this, let me see if you have any question before we round up this session. It's been an awesome time. Thank you, Jane, for joining. Thank you, Clementine. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I am grateful. This webinar will stay for some time for us to also catch a replay if we need to. But most importantly, all of those things will be broken down in our program. You don't just want to know how Build Your Home Tribe is going to be impactful. Build Your Home Tribe is going to be value loaded, value packed. If you have not joined that waiting list, please join. By next week, we'll be dropping the modalities for how you're going to be part of that Build Your Home Tribe. And make up your mind to join, to be in that class, in that program. It's going to be an annual program, yearly, so that you will be there to break down processes, limitations as parents. You don't want to see the webinar, the module for the webinars of each month. Leadership, limitation, parenting with calm, parenting with wholesomeness and peace, dropping our baggage. In fact, you don't want to see the modules. So make sure you are part of that annual program. Join that waiting list so that next week, by the time we start sharing the waiting lists, you'll be able to know how to be part of that program. It's going to be value packed. Value packed. Thank you, Jane, for joining. Do you have any question? I'm waiting for questions. If there's any question, let me answer. If there's none, let's call it a day. Do we have any question? Do we have any question, Jane? Clementina, all the people that are live, do we have any question? Do we have any question? Please drop it in the comment section. Let me know if you have any question. Okay, Clementina, you don't have any question, right? Do you have any question? If there's no question, then okay. Clementina, you're saying programming. Programming, how programming is used is that you, for instance, I said you want this pen, for instance, to be kept, you want that this pen should be kept in a particular spot in the house. For instance, you're dining. That's where you want this pen to be kept all the time. And then you find out your child kept the pen in a different place and you don't want that pen to be kept there. Make sure that at that point, when you have also thought that this pen should be kept here, for instance, you want it to be kept in the dining, and you find out that the pen is where you don't, when you insist that this pen should always be kept here, not when you see the pen, you say, who kept this pen here? You remove it, or you don't even question why the pen was kept where you said should not be kept. Then you are not validating that you insist that the pen should be kept here. You may not, it's something that you keep silent to do, no correction, so to say. Why did you not, this and that, no admonition, no preaching, nothing. You know, it's just like you're silently structuring the child. That's why I say structure is everything. You're silently structuring the child. You insist that this pen will be kept here, and then you go and you saw the pen in the kitchen, you brought it back in the dining where the pen should be. You brought it back in the dining, your child sees it's in the dining. You come back, who kept and saw it again in the kitchen or in the room, you insist, who kept that pen in the kitchen? Return that pen where it should be, and the person returns it. You make sure the person returns it without shouting, without any advice. You know that you should be keeping it here. You know that this and that. No any admonition, no preaching, just something you silently do and insist. Or you were there when the child was removing the pen from the dining, excuse me, and wanting to take the pen to another spot. Like what I said happened to my daughter this afternoon. When she came back, she dropped the bag on the dining, her lunch bag on the dining, and I fixed my gaze on her and left and carried the bag. That is because while I was looking at her, the eye is already telling her, what's wrong with you? Why are you keeping your lunch bag on the dining? And then she left with that bag. When you insist that something must be done the right way, for instance, you're keeping a particular thing in a particular place, you want them to sweep or do their work at a particular time, you have structured it and this is the way it should be done, and you insist on doing it like that, you're programming the child to be doing that thing in that way and the how you want it. Yes, Clementina, programming works perfectly for babies and toddlers. That's why parenting must be proactive. That's why parenting must be proactive. If you're learning on what to do, there are so many mistakes that are avoidable. Why it is tough for older children is because we didn't shape their mind and shape them to, come into that spot where they are already structured to do it like that. Babies and toddlers programming works perfect. I have a child that, as a toddler, he holds my pen, my phone, and I say, no, no, no. Phones are not for play. Phones are not for this. This is mommy's phone. No matter how careless you drop your phone or anything, that child will not touch that phone. But I have others who, no matter how you preach, except for the way you have insisted, and brought out a plan that guides media, they will always touch it. The reason is that you have not programmed them from the day one to know. And so they have become impulsive. You now need to build a skill that will help them stay focused and not do that thing again. I hope you got it. So thank you very much for joining this webinar. We will meet in the group. And if you have not joined Build Your Tribe group, please join Build Your Home Tribe and get all the details for our program. Starting on the 1st of September, we will start dropping details on how to join the Build Your Home Tribe. So Clementina, I will see you in the group. Thank you very much for joining till the end. God bless you, and do have a lovely night and a beautiful weekend ahead. Good night.